I was doing some maintenance on my chain and I noticed this. So I don't know if you can see how they're slightly hooked, slightly going to a shark fin. So here's a brand new stock front sprocket or chain wheel. They're a little enlarged, and they got a slight hook to them, which normally I wouldn't mind that too much. You can actually get away with a lot. But then the other thing, when I was lubing my chain up here, you see it's all waxy looking from putting chain wax on it. Oh, now I'm not going to be able to find it. Anyways, there was 2 spots in it that looked just like that, right? And when I went to unkink them, they did not want to unkink. Now, since I rolled the bike in here, I can't find the damn spots again. But that's the way this goes, right? As soon as I get the camera out, oh, everything's fine. When you check your chain, you have to have your bike up on the stand so it's hanging loose, right? So that the rear wheel's not touching the ground. Like so. Whoop, let me tilt this front a little bit. Okay, there we go. So now our back wheel's off the ground. And then this should be about 1/8 of an inch travel, or I'm sorry, 1 inch and 1/8 of travel. That's actually a little sloppy. So I know I'm going to have to adjust the chain, but here's the other thing that bothers me, and the reason why I'm changing the chain is, if you look, here's my adjuster. The adjustment, I still got a little bit to go before I'm hanging off, but you see that? I've got another 1/8 of an inch before I run out of adjustment, and I haven't done it yet, but I've got a good feeling that when I move that back and take the slop out of the chain, or adjust it to correct, I don't want to say take the slop out, because your chain shouldn't be tight. But when I move that axle back, I'm probably going to hit the end of my adjustment. So I'm not going to be able to adjust it anymore. So I'm going to, so I need a new chain, and it's got kinks, and just a lot of things added up to make me decide, well, I'm just going to go ahead and replace everything. And another reason we're going to do the chain and everything else now too is, I don't know if you can see how much worn away this chain guide is, but it's pretty well worn. It's sitting pretty low. I could probably get a bunch more miles out of it, but we're going to change that out, and because we can't just leave anything alone, you know how I am, we're going to add the Zeta chain guide. We'll see how that works out. I'm not sure. All right, this one is has the plastic in an aluminum cage, so when you take a rock to the bottom, it's got some oomph, and the Zeta does not. It's all plastic all the way down. So I don't know, this plastic's pretty strong. But anyway, so we're going to replace that too. And of course, you see I replaced the heel guard up here with, that looks like a Zeta. It's the same color. I think this is a gray market thing out of Japan, or out of China. It's probably a Zeta, but they didn't laser it. They charged you 1/3 of the price. So I went with that just to give it a try. So I'm going to swap that in too. All right, obviously I've already taken the wheel and the chain off, but I did that because I want you guys to see the chain guides. Just make sure that they're not all beat up, and this one's like pretty much perfect. And then you have one down here, right? Make sure they spin and that they're not all chewed up. Those are, at least, they're kind of hard to see with this stuff on. So as you're inspecting things, right, don't forget your sliders, your chain slides. They're not too chewed up. This is what we're going to do for this video. We're going to put on a new sprocket. I actually ordered the stock one first. This is just a stock one with a rubber silencer, and it was back ordered. And then I went on Renthal site, and they had this, but it's not listed for the L, it's listed for the X. And I just wanted to be 100% sure that they were exactly the same. So I ordered those two. I preferred the Renthal, but again, I wasn't sure if that was the right one. So for 30 bucks, I just got an extra one. And they were back ordered for a long time because Honda changed the spline. So everybody had to like retool. Not saying that you have to change your rear sprocket or your front sprocket with your chain. It's not always necessarily true. It kind of depends on how far you've let it go. But just so that I could show you guys how all this works, I ordered a new rear sprocket. At least that's the excuse I'm going to tell my wife if she asks why I keep buying bike parts. And I got the Supersprox Stealth. So it's got a steel ring on the outside. It's aluminum on the inside. I got gold because it's pretty. And I also went with a 52 teeth. The stock is 51. I added a tooth to the rear, so that'll give me a little bit more torque. In the technical stuff, this bike is a little heavy, and I think adding a tooth in the back will make it a little more manageable. And then for the chain, and this is probably the most important part for all y'all, I went with the 520 ERVT. So your chain is a 520. It has O-rings, right? It's O-ring sealed, which, yeah, it's right there. Can you see that? What do you mean you can't see that? Squint. Squint really hard. It's an O-ring chain. This one from D.I.D is their motocross / rally enduro. It's an O-ring chain. It's slightly narrower than a regular 520 chain. And that comes in handy. I'm going to stuff the camera in here and we'll see if it actually picks anything up. I don't know if you can see how close the chain is to the crankcase, but it's pretty close. And I've heard stories about people getting cheapy regular chains and having them either rub on the crankcase or just plain old break. So that was recommended by, among other places, Solar Racer, who sells a lot of CRF450L stuff, who I buy a lot of parts from them. And so this was the chain they recommended, and again, I've seen it recommended in other places too, so that's what we're going to add on. As far as you guys checking your own chain, again, looking at that sprocket, it's getting a little hooked on the backside where when you're accelerating, it's grinding into this back part. And I've got almost 6,000 miles on this bike now, and probably, oh man, I want to call it a 50-50 split between road and dirt miles, because I've done so many of the longer trails, you know, and by dirt I don't mean motocross, I mean you know, gravel roads, double track, stuff like that. I've been down to Utah a bunch, so again, out of the 6,000 miles on this bike, at least half of the miles, easily half of the miles are on dirt roads. So I would expect some wear. All right, you know how this works. I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to swap out the front sprocket, aka the chain wheel, the chain, which comes in, oh, I think your stock chain is 116 links, and this one comes as a 120 links. We're gonna have to knock 4 links off of this. Anyways, okay, back to the original point. I'm gonna shut up now, and we're gonna change this. First thing you want to do is, once you get this cover off here, we're going to pull our front sprocket off. On the Honda, this is a 12 millimeter, and it's held on by these 2 washers behind it. And the washer orientation matters, right? This one even says side out. So I'm just going to put some marks on those 2. just so I can't forget which way they went. And then sometimes in gear works, sometimes if you lock up the back brake to keep the rear tire from spinning, and then you get a wrench on this, and there you go. And that's all there is to it. And then this whole thing comes off. So now we're going to break the chain. The only way to get a chain that doesn't have a master link in it is to break it or cut it. So to do that, basically what you're going to do, you're going to take this, and you can see as I rotate this outside, right, as I rotate that, it pushes that pin through. And what that pin's going to do is it's going to push one of these pins out of one of the links. I'm going to cheat. You should be able to do that with a good breaker. This is actually a fairly cheap Tusk breaker, so I'm going to give it a little boost. I'm going to grind the end off of one of these pins where it's peened over, where it's flattened out, and then we're going to drive it through with the breaker. Just make life infinitely easier. All right. I say that, ain't nothing ever easy. Put this in. I have to look at that later on, see how cool it looked. Here, I'm going to stop this halfway. Okay. Oh, maybe a little more than halfway. I just want to stop there so you can see how this pin is driven that pin out. I'll keep going here. Yep, there it goes. And there the pin just fell out. So now once we take this all off, you can see it's pulling the pin or the punch back out. Good. And then, boop, oh, and there went an O-ring. This actually has X rings, meaning that their cross section, I can't hang on to this thing, cross section of that would make kind of an X shape. Oh, there's the other one. So these guys right in here. And of course the purpose of those is to keep the grease inside here. All right, there's the chain. So here is my old chain. Right. I wish I could find that kink again. There's actually a couple of them. I'm feeling it right now. It doesn't feel too bad. A couple of them are a little stiffer than others, but nothing super stuck. Again, this chain really isn't that. Oh, that one's pretty good. All right, that one doesn't just unkink. I've got to. Here it goes. Hey, okay, I can move it. Here's the old chain and the new chain. And remember I said this one was 120 and this is 116, so they're short by this much. But also remember that the new sprocket has an extra tooth to it. So that should only be an extra link, but just to make sure, and if you guys are changing front or rear sprockets on this, and you change the chain, it doesn't really cost you anything to put your sprockets on first and put the chain up on the bike and just make sure that you don't run out of room fore or aft, right? And your chain ends up too long or too short. Your tire, your nuts, your bolts for your sprocket on the back side are these 14 millimeter nuts. I'm going to see if I can't loosen these guys up. There we go. And there's the old one. Actually doesn't look bad at all. Alright, so we've got the old sprocket off. Here's the new sprocket to go on. You'll see it's thicker in the front than in the back. Right? So it goes on like so. But before I do that, I don't know if you can see all the gunk that's piled up in there. I'm gonna quick clean all that out, and then we'll put the sprocket on. Okay, I have everything cleaned out, about as good as I care to clean it out. Doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I always want to make sure that any of the moving bits or anything the chain's going to hit is going to be clean. You know, wherever around the oil cap, and I take that off, I don't want dirt to drop in there, so that's going to be clean. And the oil filter, I guess I can clean a little better. Yeah, I don't get that excited about cleaning my stuff anymore. There was a time when I was younger, you know, I would spend an afternoon detailing my truck after going four-wheeling, but I don't care that much anymore. I must be getting old. One more time, there's a thick side and a skinny side, and the thick side sticks out. Ask me why. Why, John? What do I look like, a Honda engineer? I don't know. Okay, so let's work this on. I know it goes on, but the tolerances are pretty tight, at least for the drive. Here, can you line that up for me? Am I close? Usually it's right. Boom. Good Lord. There we go. Okay. So that's on. right? There's no slop in that. Somebody said that they were told it's okay to have slop in their chain wheel, in their front sprocket. That is not true. You're allowed to have some slop between your gears, but not in the actual shaft and the sprocket itself. Okay, here are our washers and our nut. I kind of left them in position so I wouldn't screw them up. Basically, you can see they're kind of a conical washer that puts pressure on the sprocket and holds, but works like a lock washer. We'll just say that. And then these get torqued down to, what do they get torqued to? Let's say this rear axle gets, I don't know what these are. I always aim for a grunt on anything like that. Okay, so that's in. So we're going to torque this, and then we're going to put the rear wheel on. And then like our original plan was, my original plan, I'm going to put the chain on and see how many links from 120 I have to take out. I'm thinking 3 because I added a tooth in the back. But who knows, maybe 116 link chain will work just fine. So the axle's in, it's not tight, it's still pretty loose, right? I can still move the front tire back and forth. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this adjuster, maybe not all the way up, but pretty far up. I'm going to get the axle straight as I can without getting crazy about it. And then we'll put the chain on. I'm not going to torque the axle down until I'm ready, right? Because I'm going to need to move this back and forth and do some adjustment to it. But I also don't want it flopping everywhere. So again, I'm going to, I guess I should show you these real quick. So this is how you chain your, good Lord, John. This is how you adjust your axle to keep her straight. Move this stuff out of my way so I can move over. Just in case nobody's ever seen these, basically this is just a bolt, and this is just a nut to set it wherever you put it. And the further out this bolt goes, right, the further it contacts the axle. So if I want to move my axle back, right, I just adjust this bolt out more, right, and there's one on each side. They're exactly the same. Up here, I'm hoping you can see this tick mark. There's one on either side, and then there's this row of tick marks that are actually on the swing arm, right? So the idea is I'm going to go back 1, 2, 3, whatever, 4 tick marks. I'm going to set this so that it can only go forward 4 tick marks. I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set this so when I shove the axle front, it'll hit this block and it won't be able to go farther than 4. Sounds good? Right? Whatever tick mark you're on this side, you should be on that side as well. They're exactly the same. Right? Tick marks and on the swing arm, it's kind of dark over here. There's a tick mark, and then there's the ones on the swing arm. You can see this one's like backed way out. So I'm going to adjust that, and then we'll get the chain on there. Got the chain on, and I've actually lined up both sides are at mark whatever, 5.5, 6.5. They're pretty close. because it's being held on by the rear sprocket. I went ahead and measured my free play. Now if you remember, you measure from halfway, which puts it about here. Sorry. Puts it about here, and you want about 1 3/8 inches of movement. And there's no possible way I can do this without getting stupid. So basically what you're going to do is put a tape measure there, and then with your free hand, hang on, let me see if I can hang on to this with my knee. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. I hope you can see this. Okay, so I'm going to measure, pick a spot, doesn't matter, from the bottom of that sprocket, or from the bottom of the chain, right? And I'm going to move it up, and then the bottom of the chain should be 1 3/8, which be right about there. All right? So that's actually really, really close to being adjusted. So now we're going to cut out where we need to. So remember, you have to cut off the outside plates. It means I need to cut out this pin right here. This pin has to go. And then the master link will fill the gap between those two. Yep. All right, so here is the master link packet, and it's got amazing instructions right there. Right? It's pretty easy. You just put it on from the back so that the clip is in the front. Okay, real quick shot of, you see all the pieces? Right? You've got the back, you've got the front plate, you've got the clip, you've got 4 O-rings, and then you get a little packet of grease. Because remember, these O-rings are meant to keep grease on these pins inside of these holes. There's the master link. We're going to put O-rings like so, right? You need to seal both sides. And we're going to gob grease all over these pins till it's like a lot of grease, like not even a little. Like, don't even spare the grease. I'm actually going to put some grease in the back sides of these holes, right? Try to shove it in there. What I'm hoping is basically what I'm doing is I'm putting it over the hole and then pushing it in. There we go. So there's grease in the holes, right? There's tons of grease all over that guy. And I'm hoping when I push this through, there, that's what I want to see. See how it's pushing? I've got so much grease in there, it's shoving it out. We need the 2 more O-rings, or X-rings, I guess these are called. Go on like so. And then you've got your plate. I'm going to throw a little bit of grease. I'm going to smear some, I got some extra on the back side of that as well. And then, just for continuity, I'm going to try to line up. It says 520 EV, blah, 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 ERV1, whatever it says. I'll try to keep that consistent. Now, this is the shitty part. Okay. Probably standing right in my own light. Ooh, didn't want to move at all. Oh, there we go. It's almost like the clip is an afterthought. That's probably a good thing. There we go. Just trying to work that thing on there. Now I can just about see the grooves where that's got to sit. I can see them, but they're still not on far enough. And I might, if it's not going to, sometimes they stick, right? Sometimes they go on all the way and they like just sit there. And the clip just goes right on. Oh, that one's on. Oh, it might actually work. So we're going to move in here where there's hopefully more light. Can you guys see now? I don't think I was doing very good out there. So tire spins, master link's on. I got that all clipped on. I got it to where I can feel it. And now we're going to clip her on there. As the tire spins, right, it goes that way. So that's the direction it gets clipped down on. And okay, there you go. And voila. There we go. It's all on. Master link's going the right direction. You got your heel plate here. I put the chain guide on a while you guys weren't looking. Super easy, and you don't have to take the chain off to put these on. Okay. And then there's the front chain guard covering the Renthal. If you ask me why did you pick the Renthal, I just wanted a good brand name. And this, can you see those little divots between the teeth? Right, that's to eject mud. It's kind of sharp in there, so it squishes the mud and dirt and whatnot out of there. That's all. I'm sure as soon as everybody gets their shit together, they'll all have a sprocket. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do, you can see this is still hanging loose. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to double check our play. It looks like it's actually got tighter. And then we're going to align the rear wheel, the final alignment. So again, it doesn't matter, you're measuring the movement, so whatever spot you pick, just stick with that. So like if I hold it on the bottom of the link, then when I pull up, then I'm measuring to the bottom of the link. If you want, you can go to the center of the link, call it 1 inch. Right? Well, that makes it hard. So there it's 1/2 inch. So now 1/2 inch is 1 inch. This is actually too tight. So we're going to make this a little looser. Right now we're at mark 1, 2, 3. Good Lord. We're mark. Come on, let me see what you're seeing. We're at mark 1, 2, 3, 5.5. So I'm going to take this tick mark and move it back to the number 5 tick mark. Unfortunately, we've already passed it, so that makes it a little harder. It's always nice when you tighten this up and it just comes back. There we go. You see it's pretty close. Don't move them more than like 1/2 tick mark, a whole tick mark at a time, without moving the other side. You can see this side's actually moved some on its own. But don't like crank one out to tick mark number 6 and leave this side wherever it gets drugged to. You're just twisting stuff and asking for trouble. Okay. So when I push forward, do I got numbers 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's pretty close. Maybe in just a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty close. And that's still forward. Okay, so next, before you do anything, you take my big 1 1/4 socket. But John, it's metric. You'll break your bike. No, you won't. Promise. And snug it lightly. Oh, that moved a little bit. Okay. Just so it doesn't flop around. Now we're going to go back up here. So we moved a 1/2 a tick mark. I really wish this little screen in the back would just stay on. I promise I'll get new batteries. Okay, so that's hitting bottom. That's probably actually not a... Oh, crap. So that was half a tick mark. Gave us a whole extra, I don't know, half an inch of movement. All right, that's way too much. But that's okay, because now, instead of shoving everything back and hoping for the best, right, now as I bring this bolt out, it'll actually pull everything back. Don't make your axle so tight that, do I need to say this? Don't make your axle so tight that you're smashing this block with this screw, right? It should be just tight enough that it moves. Oh, okay. So now I'm going to aim for the tick mark, but I'm going to aim for like being on the wrong side of it. I'm going to be aiming for the back side. So 1, 2 quarter turns. Come back over here, do the same thing. Find number 5 and come back. That was really hard to see on this side. And rinse and repeat. Ah, there we go. That's better. I like that. If it bottoms out, it's usually too slack. So from the bottom, now I'm going to measure up to the bottom 1.5 inches. There we go. So we're closer. We need to knock off another 1/8 of an inch. So I know this takes forever, but listen, take your time and do it. Get your tension correct. Your chain will last longer. Your bike will ride better. Now, you see the difference? Now it's sticking up in the air. It's not touching the slider anymore. So push it down. Find the bottom. There we go. That's bottomed out right about there. And then pull it up and, wow, yeah, I like it. Okay. So now we've got all that. It's tightened up. It's snug. Nothing's written in stone or in concrete. Next, we're going to break out our little Motion Pro alignment tool. The idea is that this edge is perfectly aligned with that very straight rod. So when this edge is on the sprocket, it should aim right down the chain. Okay. So front, right, this is touching so that that's aligned, and then I'm a little high. But now, let's aim it like a gun and see what it aims at. Wow. How's that? Does it show up on the video? That looks really good to me. All right, so if it was off, oh, I don't want to bend this. If it was off, it would look like that. Or it would look like that the other way. But looking right down it, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So next we're going to tighten your axle down to whatever I said earlier. And we're going to tighten down these set nuts, right? That'll keep our adjustment from getting away from us. And then I got to look at the chain manufacturer, but we'll probably put a, good 20, 30, 40 miles on this and come back. And you're going to have to do this again. The chain is going to stretch right away. It just is. And you're just going to have to deal with it and fix it. Call it good. All right. So, all right, that was a little long. I apologize. It was, it was more than just replacing your chain. It was how to break a chain, how to install, how to adjust. So we kind of did like 5 videos in one video. I apologize for that, but I hope you got something out of it. And as always, if I screwed something up, go ahead, let me know. If chain is actually, pronounced chain, I might have got that wrong. I don't know. So go ahead and pronunciation Nazis, let me know so I don't say it wrong again. And all right. Thanks for watching. You know, I've never asked you guys to like and subscribe. You just kind of seem to do. So I'm not going to ask you to like and subscribe again.